Hey guys, and welcome back to Backwoods Backyard. We're gonna get this going here. We're gonna talk about the pond first. Introduce you to how everything went off. I apologize for my camera skills and just getting started out. Just have a GoPro Hero 3, my old GoPro camera. So we'll upgrade as time goes on, as the channel takes off, and hopefully I get a lot better at speaking, because I feel like sound like a moron on here. Hopefully that comes with practice. Back to the pond. We started this project about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. We bought this property. It was all wooded. My first mistake on the pond was not hiring somebody that knew how to dig ponds. But I was just trying to get in the woods, cleared out a spot for the house. Wasn't sure if I was gonna have a pond yet or not. I needed to get a perk test done, so the county would allow me or tell me what I needed for a septic tank system if I can build a house on it. So I got a plumbing company to come, and he brought his machinery, and they cleared the trail, and then we cleared out this whole lot for the house. And we dug the pit for the perk test, and the county came and inspected, and we got all of that done. Well, while I had them guys here, I was like, well, let's keep on clearing, you know. So we got to where that little tree line was, and started working our way this way, and we got down into this natural valley. This is a hill where the house is at, and a hill here. Everything drops off back, runs that way. So I was like, we're gonna dig a pond. All I got to do is take this natural valley and put a dam on this end of it, and then I'll have a pond. Yeah. A lot more goes into it than just damming up a low area and collecting water. Your soil has a lot to do with it, and as you can see, it's pretty rocky. But what I discovered was, in that valley, it had got washed out down to hard rock. I mean, it was like solid bedrock. I don't know what kind of rock it was, but they got where they couldn't even dig with the excavator anymore. It looked like a slab of concrete they hit underneath. So I was like, well, there's no way that's gonna hold water. So I had the pond was just gonna be in that valley. So I said, we gotta come across here and get to the hillside, because when we got to the higher side, it was better clay. You can see how hard it is, even though there's some rock in it. There was enough clay to help seal it, and that's what you needed to do to seal your pond. You need a good layer of clay. And people recommended about 2 feet of compacted clay with a sheep head roller. It's like a big, like you see on the blacktop when the big steam rollers that roll it. It's something like that, but they got big points on the steam on the big rollers that it's like a sheep foot just pushing in, packing in, like if you would run cattle through it. Have a bunch of hard footprints into the clay. And they're supposed to go over that a lot and pack it. Well, I never done it. Trying to take the cheap way out. Use what I had. I had them guys here with a big front end loader and a backhoe, which I needed a dozer, but they never brought one. So it's went on for a while, digging and moving trees, digging up trees, moving dirt. And a lot of my top dirt was real sandy. You had to get about 2 feet of that off to get to the good clay. So then we started moving all that sandy dirt and piling it up where the house was at. And I was building a pad, smoothing stuff out. Where that trailer's at, I was gonna have a metal building, and we were gonna live in a metal building while we built the house. So it was gonna end up costing so much money for the metal building, we figured we'd just go straight to building the house and have a basement instead, and it'd be cheaper for us in the long run. So that's what we decided to do. I had to tell the guys, you know, shut down the pond operation. We're not getting anywhere. It wasn't holding water. It would rain, it'd fill up with water, and it'd drain in a week or so. And we had like 3 months of drought in the summertime, and it would just suck everything out. And what we had was like an underwater vein. It's like a natural spring over here in this valley area. Whenever the water table comes up high, it'll flow they'll have little springs that pop up through the topsoil and water flow on top of the surface, like you're seeing right here. But we've been getting plenty of rain. Usually this stays dry. We've got 4 inches of rain in one day last week, and it's been raining at least twice a week. Big, heavy pour downs. And you can still see the dirt pile with all the top shell and sandy soil that I didn't use, that I had left. But what that does, what I essentially had when I dug this out into the pond, and it kept going straight out that way. It's about 20 feet deep where the levee was, or it was when we first dug it. And it had silted up since then. But so we're getting all the good clay from this area and making this levee, making that dam on the backside. Putting it, I spread it with my tractor there, ride over it with a dump truck and the big excavator and the front end, the big loader they had with tracks, and pack it as I went. And so we done that for a while, and it took a long time, slowly doing it, moving dirt. Moving dirt is what took the longest. Digging wasn't bad, it was getting the dirt out the way that you didn't need. So what I had, once we dug down here, I ended up hitting into that water vein. That was the natural waterway for the water to go through the property. It gets up higher that way, and the elevation drops this way. So I'm getting a lot of runoff. Everything kind of comes to these little valleys. And most of it's all underground. You can't even see it. It's only when the water table gets up this high that, and the fact that I got it sealed now is blocking it from traveling under. So it's kind of hits like a dam right here. The underground vein hits like a dam, so it seeps up right here and it comes over. Then it flows out my pipes on the other side. My pipes, it's a siphon system. If you want to look up a siphon system, your good oxygenated water is on your top level, wherever sunlight can penetrate. Photosynthesis takes place and the algae bloom, and that's what puts oxygen in your water. Deeper you go, the further away from sunlight you get, the less oxygen you'll have in your water. So those pipes run, I guess, about 15 feet. It's about 3-4 feet off the bottom. And I'll have like I got a runner coming out horizontal with a bunch of little holes drilled in it as a strain kind of thing, so I don't suck all my fish out. So I'm taking water out the bottom. I got fresh oxygenated water running off the top, which usually don't happen. It's just that we got such a high water. The water table is real high right now. So all that water, good oxygenated water, is coming in mixing, and that's sucking from the bottom the bad water out. So I'm turning my pond over, circulating everything. That's what you want in your pond. You want to have a good circulation. It's not good to have a creek running into your pond because you're constantly getting fresh water that you don't have treated, that it hadn't stabilized. Once you get your pond fertilized and limed and you got your pH right, everything gets in balance and it starts working. Nature takes its course. But when you got fresh water coming in, it kind of throws all that off and your pond got to recuperate. So you don't want, what I've read, I'm not a professional and expert, I just made a lot of wrong decisions and learned some stuff along the way. You don't want to dam up a creek running through. A pond, you got to treat it like it's an aquarium. Any little thing can affect it in a big way. It's not like a big reservoir where they dam off a big valley in between some mountain ranges. That's so much. It has so much area that fish can move and find better water here and there. It's more diverse. They got different areas of safety they can move in. In the pond, they stuck in here. Like I said, it's treated like it's an aquarium. You know, in an aquarium, you gotta treat your water and keep everything filtered and all, because it's a small space. Everything gotta be perfect. There's no safe areas they can go. They're stuck in it. So pond's a lot different than thinking of an area, a lake or something that has current, that's constantly oxygenating and mixing the water. And it's a stagnant water just stuck here, except for my little overflow that I got going on. So we decided, we was at the point where we were ready to start building, had to shut down the pond operation. We were spending too much money. Those guys wasn't getting anywhere with it. It was slow and just getting paid by the hour, and it was burning up the checkbook. So the pond was about half the size, I guess, from that tree running across to where that pipe is. And that back half was the uphill side. So I got a guy that dug a lot of ponds. He still wasn't a pond expert, but he had a lot of experience with ponds. It wasn't all he done. Everybody's recommended, you know, get with a place that just does ponds and maintains ponds and lakes for big subdivisions and country clubs. You know, they know what to do, but they're expensive. You know, off the start, you know, it looked like a big deal, but I ended up spending more money than if I would have went with them from the get-go. But so we started to build the house, and I got this other pond guy to come in that digs ponds, and I was telling him I was leaking. This was my leaking zone. It'd fill up in that back. It'd get a puddle and it'll hold water in the back. But we'd get a lot of rain and it would all flow from watershed from the hills and all would flow in here and it'd fill up. Well, it would sink within a week or two. It'd drain. I mean, it wasn't this big of a pond, but it would drain a lot of water. And what I basically had was the French drain. You know, I got rocks under the ground right here just running straight through. So it was just acting as a French drain, draining my pond. Everything was running out into the woods. I wasn't holding any water. So he said he had a lot of luck using bentonite, which I think they mine in Texas or somewhere in that area. And it's a white powder. It's like a clay. It's supposed to swell 30 times more than clay. He said it'll help seal my pond. So they came and we dug into the good clay that was on that hillside and spread it and packed it. And I told them I wanted 2 feet of clay packed because that's what I heard was recommended. And once they start spreading it, I didn't have a marker set up where I knew how much they spread, and they didn't keep track of how much they spread. And when we got a good rain and we had washouts trying to fill up the pond, this all washed out. All the packed clay they had on this side, where this underground vein is, washed all out into the deep end, the deep puddle on that side. All it silted it all up, and I could see where the washouts were. It was only like a foot, if that, of clay that they had packed on top. And they didn't use a sheep foot roller, which might have stopped it from getting washed out. But he spread that, he tilled it all up with some choppers and mixed a whole pallet load of bentonite in it. This is a 1/2 acre pond. They put 1 pallet, they chopped it and mixed in a pallet, mixed it into the clay, and then packed it all in, and then went on top of it with a spreader and spread it a whole layer of that white bentonite stuff all around the pond to go into any cracks. When the water gets in there, it kind of float around in the water or whatever, mix with the water, then find where it was seeping through at, and it would get sucked into the cracks and swell up. But the problem, if I would have had a pump to pump water in the pond and slowly let it rise, I think that would have worked. But having the water washing out, everything slopes to that dam under this water. So having water running, washing, I washed everything they packed in. It washed it all out. And they went back down to the rocks again. And everything drained out. But after time, it slowly started settling. The higher your water gets, the more weight you got, more pressure you got, pushing everything down. So it was pushing that bentonite and that clay into other spots that wasn't covered up well. And it took a while to wick and saturate the banks because all that was all dry dirt and it was sucking everything out. So it took a while and a lot of water before it still slowly started to stabilize. It would still lose a lot per day. And I can tell that I was losing water. I was losing water through seepage. Everything had kind of stabilized, but I was to a point where it wasn't soaking through the sides and dams, wicking out, and I had a leak. So I called up a guy off of the Pond Boss Forums. They had a lot of good information there, and guys were very helpful. TJ Hudson, I believe, he's on there, and he's kind of a representative of a product called Sulflock. And I had talked to him when I was first doing this pond, before I had water holding, and they told him I was having problems, and he said, don't use the Sulflock yet. Bentonite would be your cheapest option. Clay is your cheapest option. If you got good clay to haul and pack in and do it right, that's your best option. If not, bentonite before you get water in your pond would be cheaper than Sulflock. But once you got it established and it's just a slower leak, but it's just not maintaining your water, and if you're in a drought period and your pond will go dry on you, he said the Sulflock, he's been having good results with people he talked to and recommended it to. So he told me let's do a survey. He said, put a piece of PVC pipe in the ground and put marks on it every inch so you can have a gauge to see how much you're losing per day. And I had a week or two with no rain, so it gave me a good baseline, and I was losing 2 inches a day. My pond was sinking 2 inches. And that was a good bit of water. And we, like I said, we had a drought where we went every summer. It seems like we got 3 months of no rain. Like, yeah, if we'd get rain on the radar, it would come toward us and then split and go around my property every time. It's just something about the terrain in this area, the pressures or something, it splits the radar around us, and we don't get the rain. So you say, yeah, you definitely need some of the salt flock. So I went ahead and got the salt flock. And we put it out with that little boat. They recommended to throw a scoop 1 to 1 out of each bag. Throw 1 scoop out of one and then 1 scoop out of the other bag, and let it land on each other in the water, and it gels up. Well, I started off doing it, and they told us to make a grid with rope stretched across the pond so you can make sure you cover everything. Well, I started off doing it like they told us, and it was difficult. It was you got the boat drifting everywhere. You got 2 buckets, 2 different products, part A and part B, and you're trying to throw it out, and sometimes it mixes, sometimes it don't. So I ended up mixing it in a bucket, and I think someone had said they didn't recommend to do that, but I did it to try it out. A 1 to 1 ratio in a 5-gallon bucket, mixed it up real good, put it in the boat, and started on one end where the wind was blowing this way, so I started to do it on that end. And as I threw it out, the wind would slowly push it. You're not supposed to do it on a windy day, but you're always going to have some kind of breeze, so you want to set up where it's going away from you in the boat. So I just take a scoop of the pre-mixed salt flock, and if you throw it up high in the air, it'll kind of all catch the wind and drift down, and it put a good level coat. And it was a good mixture and a good coat, and it was thinned out and spread out good. Then you can go back and throw on top of that coat after it would sink in and start to gel. You can see it was just a thin gel, like almost like a slime on the water. Then you can go back the opposite way, going back across the pond, and throw it right back on top of that again. And it would mix, put a thicker coat of gel. It was thick, it was getting really gelling up like jello floating on the water. But if you would throw it and it would go in a clump on the water, it would crystallize and harden into like a white crystal, and it wasn't doing the job. It wasn't turning into that gel. So you'd make a few passes, we'd go back to the other end of the pond, and we'd fill up the 5-gallon bucket again, mix it, and then come back and throw on the edge of that slime where the wind had it all pushed up on one side, and we'd throw in another level, another 5 feet we'd cover, throwing it out, dispersing it, come all the way across the pond, go back over it a second time, and then put another thick coat on it. And we repeated that process back and forth across probably half the pond, because I knew this was my problem area. I knew this side was all clay, good clay bottom. I knew that vein, which I call like the French drain underneath the pond, was in this problem area. So I wanted to put the most of the product as I could on it. I bought 3 units. There's 2 bags per unit, a part A and a part B per unit. I bought 3 units. I think each unit delivered. That's the whole problem, is the delivery fee. And I had to go pick it up from the FedEx warehouse. And it was $700, $700 and something per unit, and I put 3 units out, and it worked. It got my pond sealed up. And now on my gauge, I'll lose hot summertime 1/4 of an inch a day, and that just could be from the wind wicking it onto the banks and it drying up, and evaporation in the pond. They said on Pond Boss, the guys on Pond Boss told me 1/4 inch, you're good. You might have a little bit of leakage, but that's good. If you got 1/4 inch of loss, take it. So I'm happy with it, and it's really been holding and staying full now. And I think we got last summer, during the summer, it might have dropped 15 inches throughout the whole summer with having not 3 months of no rain. And so that was pretty good. I was satisfied with it. I can lose 15 inches and I'll be happy. And the older your pond is, the more it's gonna kind of pack itself in and seal it. Right? We had that slime all over us. I mean, you'd have that powder all over you and you'd start to sweat and it'll turn the slime on your face. And they say to wear goggles and a Tyvek suit or something, a rain suit. And man, I couldn't do it, and it was too hot for all of that. So I just took the beating, got covered in slime. When I got into the shower, it became a slip and slide. I could barely stand up in the shower. There's some bluegill. I don't know if you can see it right in the shade. But my problem now is muddy water. I cannot get grass to grow on this property. I've planted, fertilized, covered in hay. But we got those droughts, so I can't get a good summertime growth on my grass. Look at all the bluegill. I don't know if you can see them. Big old tadpoles, bullfrog tadpoles. So I'm getting a lot of mud running in. And when we get a big wash. If we just get a steady rain, it's not a problem. But when we get 4 inches of rain in a couple of hours, I'll get mud. But it hadn't been bad. It's been clearing up pretty well. But that, I got an aerator system in, which I have a septic tank pump in the house, and I ran a piece of PEX all the way down then to the water line. Then I got the weighted tubing, ran to like some kind of diffuser. I bought it off of Amazon. And I got it running. That was another problem I ran into, but we'll get to that in another story. That's gonna be on the stockings, the problems I had with stocking fish in it. It's a bluegill, red-eared sunfish, F1 tiger bass is what I got the pond stocked in. And like I said, that's a story for another day. Feel like I rambled on long enough. Hope I didn't lose y'all attention. But I love this stuff. It's interesting to me. I hope it's interesting to you. Like and subscribe. Hit that alert bell. And we'd appreciate it if y'all come back for another episode of Backwoods Backyard. See y'all later.